Hello and welcome to Transformative Travel. I'm Gary White, your host, and with me today is my partner and my co-host, Ellen Aviva. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, honey.
Ellen is with me here in Portugal. We have arrived and are mostly set up in our lovely hotel here.
I'm sitting in the courtyard with the bougainvillea bush behind us.
I see the bougainvillea bush back there. That's lovely. We're going to have to close that door because we're getting echo.
I'll do it, Gary. Okay. We may have some minor technical complexities here. And I may end up going inside if there's too much noise. But we wanted to share with you the beauty of our surroundings in our apart hotel, Casa Morgaus Barao. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it right, but anyway, we'll get to that later.
Okay, and I think we're in good shape. I don't hear the echo now, so we're in good shape.
Okay.
Well, where shall we start? We were in Cottonwood, Arizona, and we went through quite a process to get here. You want to start talking about that, Ellen?
Well, I want to start talking about that as people join, and if you get into the chat box, you can put where you are living, and we'll try to shout that out. And also that this is Transformational Travel Live-stream Salons. And in 2 weeks, we will be doing the one with Ann Parker that we've had to delay. The wonderful Ann Parker, who teaches at Naropa in Boulder and has taken students to Bhutan and has a deep practice and experience with Tibetan Buddhism and European paganism, and is a geomancer. And well, she has wonderful stories to share. And in the future, we will also have Judy Fine, who's an award-winning travel writer who I think originated the idea of transformational travel, and also some other people, including Marcin Renstra and Donna Cobb-Levison and Dick Levison, who travel the world using golf and dress-up as a way of interacting with locals. And there will be time for question and answer at the end of this session.
So
and there may be more people walking by. It's an apartment hotel, a 15th, 16th century building.
So if you have joined us live, find the chat box. It should be available to you there. Type in at least your first name and where you're located, and I'll call out some of those as we go along.
Okay. I will say that the reason we are doing this one today is because people have been asking us, what are we doing? Why did we leave the States? What are we doing in Portugal? What's it like? And so we thought we would give a very brief introduction both to the process and also to Évora, the town where we are now living, this UNESCO World Heritage City.
I should put up a map here so that you can see where Évora is. It's starred on the map there.
About an hour and a half east of Lisbon.
Yes, kind of right in the middle of South Central Portugal.
We had been living in Spain for 11 years and then went back to the US, to Cottonwood, Arizona last year. and could hardly wait to get back to what feels like much more our way of life and our lifestyle. Instead of Spain, we decided to go to Portugal. And Évora was on our radar for various reasons, including some friends, Ellen Barone and her husband Hank, who had been here for months and kept coming back. So we decided to give it a try.
Okay.
So one of the things we said we would talk about is traveling in the time of COVID. You can see us flying over as we prepare to get to Lisbon. It was more complicated because we were flying from Denver to Frankfurt to Lisbon. And a week before we took off, Frankfurt, Germany added new COVID testing requirements that we didn't realize were related to us and that United Airlines didn't tell us we needed. And so we discovered the day before leaving we had to have a new rapid 48-hour before we landed in Frankfurt test, which we were able to get. Some people were not, and their luggage was taken off the plane, and they had to reschedule. So be very cautious if you're flying anywhere during these times of COVID. Make sure you know exactly what the requirements are. Check with your airline or airlines. We were both on United and then Lufthansa. And check again, because they might change 2 days before you take off.
We didn't find out until the day before that we had to have another COVID test
Yes.
to get into Frankfurt before we went on to Lisbon.
We'd even called United that morning to ask, and they said, no, we had all the tests we needed, but they were wrong. So,
right.
But all is well. Nuno picked us up at the airport in Lisbon and drove us. I think that'll be 2 slides down, Gary.
Yeah.
There we are. We are approaching Lisbon, and Nuno is driving us.
And here's Nuno
over the Vasco da Gama Bridge on our way to Évora.
Right. There's the countryside.
Quite bucolic. In fact, there are DOP, denomination of protected brand names of cattle in the region, which we will be eating later.
And here we are in Évora.
Yes, Évora in 1986 was declared a World Heritage Site, and you can see the walls surrounding it. They are Roman, but the Roman walls are inside the city, and then surrounding it is another group of walls that were built in the 15th, 16th, 17th centuries, in part to defend against the Spanish invaders. And those are in quite good repair.
Yeah, completely circle the city. Yeah.
That is part of what is called the Aqueduct of Silver Water. And in place, it extended for 6 miles outside of the city and brought water into Évora. And it was constructed in, I have notes here, because I'm still not that familiar with everything here. Yeah, it was constructed in the 16th century. And now some of the arcades are filled in with shops and even houses. I'd like to say a little bit about why Évora. As I said, some friends recommended it. It is the capital of the Central Portuguese Alentejo region, and its historic center is a World Heritage Site. Its history goes back over 5,000 years, and its ancient city center is filled with narrow cobblestone streets, white painted houses with a sort of mustard ochre trim, and tiled patios and arched alleyways. A region around it is even older. There are megalithic sites that we are very eager to get to and explore in detail, which show settlement in, or at least habitation in the region as much as 6,000 or 8,000 years ago. The area was settled, and before 57 BC, it was settled by Celtic peoples who called it, well, we don't know what they called it, But anyway, the name may derive from a Latin word for gold, or it could come from a Celtic word that means of the yew trees. And yew trees are greatly important for both their poisonous berries and their seemingly endless lives. It was settled by the Romans in 57 BCE, and so we will see some of the old Roman walls. And there was a Visigothic presence later on. There was Moorish rule for 400 years, from 715 to 1165. It was then conquered by a Portuguese Christian knight. And for 400 years, Évora was the preferred abode and residence of many kings. And there's a university there from the 16th century.
So here we are at our hotel.
Casa, and I apologize for my very bad Portuguese pronunciation. We are at Casa Murgoishburó, which was built in the 15th and 16th centuries, and our ground floor apartment may go back to the 14th century even. And then it was remodeled over many years and many centuries. So there are wall paintings from the 18th and 19th century. This is the living room of our apartment.
Where I'm sitting right now.
Over to the right, out of view. Yeah. Now this is, and that's the bedroom, and you can see some of the paintings on the wall. We didn't show the mini kitchen, which is indeed a mini kitchen with two induction burners, a mini refrigerator, a sink, and a microwave. And since we moved here, we are talking about transformational travel. And we moved here from a very spacious 4-bedroom house with a huge backyard and a living room and a family room and 2 big bathrooms and a huge kitchen with a central island and all of the Instapot and food processors and whatever else you could imagine. So we have moved in a transformational way to a very different way of living. And as Gary has pointed out, the question is,
how do we live here now?
how do we live here? Yeah.
Who are we at this in this place? And how do the people live their lives here?
Instead of just taking everything with us, in fact, we came with 2 suitcases and a day pack each, but instead of taking not only stuff, but our old habits and patterns of life with us, we are exploring the transformational nature of living in another place without all of those things and living in a very different way than we have been living in the past.
Yeah.
It's challenging and exciting and refreshing.
And the first week we were here, I broke a tooth, and then we had to figure out how to access a dentist and how to access our health insurance, get a bank account. We still haven't gotten our debit cards from the bank. But
it's been 2.5 weeks, and we've checked, and they say, well, they got mailed. They should be there. Between COVID and just a different pace of doing things.
Yes, it's like Spanish time, but more so.
Yeah.
Everything takes a little longer here, that's for sure.
And
but anyway,
Yeah,
we're
and then
enjoying it.
What else do we have to do right now?
That's right.
Except be here and become accustomed to a very different way of being.
Right.
Yeah.
But almost the same day that we arrived, we walked out, and I looked up and saw this street sign,
Oh, yeah.
Rua de S. Tiago. Well, Santiago.
Now, some of you may know and some of you don't, but in 1982, I was in Spain doing research for my PhD in anthropology on the Camino de Santiago. And so for about 40 years, more than half my life, the Camino and pilgrimage and transformational travel has been central to what I do and who I am. And every place we lived in Spain, and we lived in 3 different cities. We lived in Sagun in the center, and we lived in Girona in Catalonia, and we lived in Oviedo in Asturias in the north. And every place we've lived, we have turned out to be living on the Camino de Santiago as it goes through town. And one requirement for me was that we be in a place where the Camino was, but I had no idea where it was in Oviedo. I just knew it went through. It turns out our apartment, our house here, is just across the alley from the Church of Santiago.
Yes.
And on the wall is the familiar blue and yellow signs that mark the Camino path. The scallop shell of Santiago, the modernized version, and the yellow arrow pointing the way.
And we see these all over town because the Camino through Portugal is going right through town.
It's going from here up north, hundreds of miles, to Santiago de Compostela in the northwest corner of Spain in the province of Galicia. So on my list, on my agenda is to at least follow the Camino through town before we become more courageous and more rested, and then end up walking parts of it from here up towards Santiago.
Right.
It's amazing that it was here.
It is.
Just amazing.
Along with things like this.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So a 3-minute walk uphill from here to the top of the town is what was the Roman Forum area and is the supposedly best preserved Roman temple in Iberia, which includes Spain and Portugal. This is called the Roman Temple. It's also called the Temple of Diana, based on a perhaps fictitious story made up perhaps by a 17th century Franciscan friar who wrote about this temple as being dedicated to the goddess Diana, goddess of the hunt, of chastity, also of childbirth. Fascinating that that this temple would be dedicated to her. It was first built in the 1st century, and we've been corrected various times now because the archaeologists say that it has nothing to do with Diana. So I wonder why this Franciscan friar decided to add Diana to the picture, unless perhaps he understood something that the rest of them don't.
Maybe he knew something.
Maybe he knew something. I mean, this
right.
was a Celtic city, and the Celts certainly honored the goddess as well as the goddesses and gods. And it was traditional, and still is, to build modern temples or religious structures over the remains of older ones. So perhaps there was something here that was then reclaimed, renamed, and built over. That gives you a sense of the height of it.
Yeah, because this is me walking along the side of this huge pedestal that this temple is sitting on, which is what, 11 feet above.
I have the numbers here. The base is about 11 and a half feet high. The granite columns are 25 feet high. There used to be 32. There are now 14. And the reason it's been so well preserved was that in about the 1300s or 1400s, it was turned into an abattoir, a slaughterhouse or a butcher house. And the space between the columns was stoned in, and it was also made part of a castle tower. And so for centuries, it was actually preserved because it was, I guess you could say, desecrated as a temple. And then in the 1800s, it was determined that, gee, it was time to do something better with it. And so they took off all of the medieval stuff and started to reconstruct, repair, preserve it, given the notions of 18th century preservation at that time. The columns are a mixture of granite and marble that comes from nearby Estremoz.
The base is local marble, and the capital is that same local marble. We see this marble all over town. It's pinkish and quite beautiful.
We'll see it on the cathedral soon. But
Yeah.
one thing I want to say in terms of transformational travel is, so I'm giving you lots of information. Okay. So maybe it's the Temple of Diana, or maybe it's dedicated to Augustus. And these are the size, and this is the number of columns. But what really, really matters isn't just what you read or what you see or what you hear, but what does it feel like? What does it feel
And
like when you get
what it
close to the
feels like
place?
walking along beside it, it raises the hair on the back of my neck.
It's a place of really powerful energy, and we haven't dowsed it yet. You know, Gary wrote a book that was published last summer called The Dowsing Mind, and he's an expert dowser. And
We
so
haven't gotten up there with the rods yet.
yeah, we've just gotten up there with our bodies as dowsing rods to feel it. And it is an amazingly powerful location. And whether that has to do with lines or energies or what underneath, I do not know. Whether it has to do with centuries of devotion and ritual, I do not know. So we have lots to explore and lots to
Here's an
understand.
interesting comment, by the way.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. We're very ignorant, but we're trying to begin to know this wonderful place that we live in. Thank you, whoever you are. Thank you very much.
Anyway, well, let's go on. Here's the local
okay.
market.
So we've been here now 3 weeks, and this was taken in the first week. And when all of the COVID restrictions were still pretty much in place. This is the Saturday market, and now it's much fuller than this. There are people selling local products and homegrown veggies and things like that. And you can see this white church behind it. That's the Church of St. Francis. And the lower building to the right of it is, well, okay, that's the entrance to the church
Right.
of St. Francis. And to the right of it is, let's see, what comes next? I think it's an inside of the church. Yeah.
Oh, I can
no,
put
here we
it
go.
on there.
No. Okay,
There's
that's
the inside of the church.
Just so you get a
And
sense.
here's
Okay.
what you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So this is one of the main topics of interest, places to visit in Évora. It's called the Chapel of Bones. And in the late 16th century, the Chapel of Bones was constructed by Franciscan monks. The city was facing a dilemma because the cemeteries were overcrowded. And so they decided to, I guess you could say, kill two birds with one stone. They decided to excavate the bones in the cemeteries and also make a place dedicated to memento mori, to the idea of the presence of death in our lives. And the sign over the that's engraved over the entrance to this to this chapel is "Nos osos que aquí estamos, pelos vosos esperamos." We, the bones that are here, await yours. So if you had any doubts about what it's all about, here it is.
And there are bones.
Now, I was unable to tell by what I've read online. Would you? Yeah, leave that one on for a minute. Whether there are 5,000 bodies here or 5,000 bones. And I have a feeling it might be 5,000 bodies, given
It
how
feels
many
more
bones
like
there are.
5,000 people.
There's also a poem in a wooden frame there that hangs from one of the chapel pillars that reads, "Where are you going in such a hurry, traveler? Stop, do not proceed. You have no greater concern than this one, that on which you focus your sight." In other words, it could be you, and it will be at some point soon. It's quite a sobering experience. It's in a strange way neutral. I mean, it's sort of overwhelming. There are all these bones and all these skulls, and they've been laid in cement, and it's hard to take it in. It's really hard to take it in.
Well, that's the Chapel of the Bones. Let's go on to
something sweeter.
Sweeter.
Yes. Okay. So this is, and forgive my pronunciation, but this is an announcement in the cobblestone street inviting you to visit the Fabrica dos Pastéis, which is built into the still surviving Roman city walls. Now, Portugal is famous for its cream custard tarts, which are called pastéis de nata. And we had to experience this. So we followed the arrow 45 steps to the right. And
oh, by the way, here's another local person talking about the Chapel of the Bones.
Okay, those bones come from the victims of Almeida's expulsion. All right. Thank
Interesting.
you. I didn't see that online. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, we're actually going down this little street. Let me
And
get.
you can see that little signpost hanging from the wall towards the back. This is a typical street in the old town. White walls and ochre or mustard highlights and trim.
And inside,
there you go. Aside from the custard tarts is the remains of the original Roman wall.
Pastiche de nata, which are right in there.
They also
and the Roman wall behind there.
Yes, exactly. And they also make other things than custard tarts. They make tarts that are filled with chicken and spinach and duck. And there is Gary
munching away.
Yeah, they were really good. I stay away from gluten, but I risked all to take a bite. It was very, very good.
Yes. And we go on to the cathedral.
So the cathedral is made from that same rose granite. It was originally started in the 12th and 13th century. It is said to be the largest Romanesque Goth cathedral in Portugal. It's in the shape of a Roman cross, which means it has a long nave and a cross arm that's shorter. It's thought that the cathedral, and this is getting back to what we were talking about earlier with the temple, the Roman temple, it's thought that the cathedral was purposely erected on the site of a former mosque as a symbolic act by the victorious 12th century crusaders. This is the front of it. You can't see it very well, but there are 12 statues of the apostles framing the entrance doorway. And we are on the west side. You can enter on others on north and south, but the west is the main entrance. Mm-hmm. And you have the tower on the right. On the left is the north tower, and the tower on the right is the south tower. And you can climb up it. You can climb.
Oh, yes.
As
you will see in a minute here, but there's the rose window.
There are 2 rose windows there, and this one has 20 spokes. And can you go back to it for a second?
Yeah.
And so we'll start introducing the idea that the numbers and the forms on these windows have great significance, geometrical forms with numbers that have different intentions and meanings depending on the system you're part of.
This one's very interesting because it has 20 spokes.
Mm-hmm. And it's called the Morning Star and dedicated to the Virgin Mary. This is from the outside of the building. Inside you would see the colors of the glass when the light shines through it. We climbed up the tower steps. And we don't have a picture here, but it's a very small, part of it is a very small winding staircase with worn stone steps. And we got there just as it started to pour. But anyway, you can see part of the view, a sort of battlements of the church, protective looking. The tower at the end there is the lantern that's over the crossing of the nave and the cross arm. And you can see in the distance the countryside around Évora.
Yeah. And here's
the cloisters. I don't know how well you can see this in here, but those oculi, those round windows, each of them is based on a different number. So you have 4 and 5 and 6 and 8, and they are forming different geometrical figures. Here's one of them based on 5, and you can see how the points of the 5 are extended and form hearts. And it's almost identical to a window we saw in the Hermitage of Usero near Soria in
Yes, in fact,
north
that
central
one has
Spain.
that window on both sides. There are
Mhm,
two of those windows in that one.
And it's a slightly different pattern, but it's again based on 5. And the Hermitage of Ucero has very clear Templar associations. It's the end of a long, narrow valley, and there's a huge cave across from it. It's fascinating. We wrote about it in one of the books in our Powerful Places guidebook series, the one on powerful places on the Caminos de
Camino,
Santiago.
right?
Yeah.
Well, here
Here is inside. This is looking down the nave. At the far end is a very elaborate altar. Although the church was started in the 12th and 13th century as Romanesque and then Gothic, it was expanded upon and remodeled and brought up to date. And just like housing styles change and furniture styles change, so do architectural styles.
Right.
And so throughout the centuries, the bishop in charge would say, well, this isn't grand enough anymore. So we need more gold, and we need more gilt, and we need more this and that. And they would revise it and make it much more elaborate.
It
And
appears that they're all
yeah.
stripes.
Yeah, look at this, the beige with the white stripe that looks like mortar on the all of these columns.
But here's the truth of it.
Yeah, they have gussied up the original stone and mortar by laying a layer of plaster, I believe, over it and
Yes.
painting it all a uniform beige with a white stripe. So it looks very, it all looks pleasing to the eye and that it's all the same, but it's also an artificial covering to the original stone. But then it was probably painted originally
Yes.
because our idea of Romanesque churches as being neutral and bare stone isn't accurate either.
Right.
They were often brightly colored. And notice on the left of the paint of this photograph, this very ornate gold altar space, which you're going to see right there. It is dedicated to a 15th, 14th century, wait a second, 15th century sculpture of Our Lady of O, who is very popular in Spain and Portugal. And she's pregnant. She's very pregnant. So it's presumably the Virgin Mary being quite pregnant and holding her hand over her very round, hence the O, belly.
Well, and she's brightly colored, which is often.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out. After the Inquisition, usually the color for Mary was blues. But you also see her in artwork with red, which is the color of martyrdom, as well as blue. But this sculpture has a lot of green, which is it's fertility and greenness, and you can see her hair as well. So,
which is red hair.
Yeah, well, don't know. Lots of secrets here that we need to explore.
Right.
So now on to something more nourishing in a different way. Patio. This is the entry up a long, narrow corridor right there to a restaurant that's all outdoors, hence patio, and where we had an excellent lunch with perhaps with a local autochthonous breed of cattle who are protected as a specific race.
That may be the best piece of beef I have ever eaten. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I don't know what comes next. What comes next?
Oh, cheese.
Oh, well, this wasn't at the restaurant. This was something I bought in the market. It's called Monte da Vina. It's a sheep cheese that is soft and creamy. It's almost spreads like butter on the inside. Reminded us a lot of torta de casar, which you find in Spain,
yes.
which is a lot smellier, actually. But it was just heaven to eat this with fresh organic strawberries and a gluten-free cracker.
Well, it's not all gourmet food. Here's another.
Yeah, we wanted it to be absolutely true to what it's like here, which is there's wonderful food, wonderful restaurants, also quick food of all sorts, and also a grab and go with. You can get sandwiches and coffee and drinks and snacks of all sorts when everything else is closed, and you're desperate. You put your money in and you get something prepackaged and. I don't know how long it's been there, but it's part of life here.
And there are 2 or 3 of them around town, so you can get your fast food here too.
It's not just a central historic UNESCO preserved place. It's a place where people are living on a regular basis. And here we are back at in the courtyard where I'm sitting right now. You can, let's see if I can
see the bougainvillea is still
let me
there.
see if I can. Yeah.
I'll get rid of that slide. You can really see it.
In the 3 weeks that we've been here, the bougainvillea. Let's see if I can turn it better. All right, if I can get there. The bougainvillea has been blossoming. It's a 4-year-old tree. Miguel, who owns this place, and who is an amazing ecologist who teaches in Madrid, said that he redid this from a wreck. He bought the place in 2015, I think, and redid it totally from a wreck, with the ceilings falling in places. And this tree was planted here only 4 years ago, but it clearly knows it is being nurtured and appreciated in this location.
Louise,
Yes.
this is the Morgal Esperal house? It is.
Yes, it is.
It is. Well, if you have questions, we would love to hear what your questions are. So,
I will, while we wait for that, I will also say that there are, dozens of sites we haven't even gotten to yet. The university and important fountains and palaces. And then in the outskirts, one of the reasons we wanted to live here was that within about 10 or 15 kilometers is one of the most important megalithic range of megalithic sites in Portugal, with the largest stone circle of, I think, 90 plus stones in Iberia. And so there's all kinds of things for us to be exploring and learning about in greater detail in the next months.
here's another
you watched
comment.
it. Miguel told us that they put on Orfeo.
Orfeo was done here, yes.
Yeah.
In the courtyard where Ellen is sitting right now.
Yes, and you can't see, but there's a balcony, but anyway, there's all kinds of things here where they were staging it. Yes, please. I don't know how you can do that, but can you show us the temple before today? Yes, please.
Yes, I would love to see a
Can you upload a photo?
picture of it. I don't think you can do so, but you could certainly do this. I think I can put up.
We're fairly new to this StreamYard technology.
Right. Let's see. I was wondering if we could get one of our emails up. I can see this is our website and your website, but I don't think I can put up one of our emails.
We can do it on Facebook. Can you do that?
Oh, sure.
Can you post it on Powerful Places Facebook page? And then we can share it from there? Okay.
Yes, good times.
Luis Miguel, thank you for, you have a link here. Okay, Gary, can you see what that is? Can you see how to access that?
Let's see if I can get to it. I can't quite get to it.
If you open up the chat, has he put the link there? No?
I see the link here, but I can't access it some way.
We'll have to work on the technology.
Yeah, we'll have to work the technology out. But send us a picture of it, and I'll get it up on our
I've seen one where it was just sort of this big block with, crumbly stone in between the columns.
Right. Well, I will work on getting that link up some way.
Okay, well, we'll put it up on the Facebook page anyway. And
Okay.
going to stay up on Facebook and YouTube for some time, I believe.
Yes. Oh, yeah, this
So-
will.
Luis Miguel, are you here in Évora? And if so, let's get together. So contact us on Facebook.
Here's another
Oh,
one.
here's the link. There it is. Now, is there some way to, I can't do it.
I can't do it from here.
Okay, well, can you copy it and,
We'll get it up one way or another. I can't
Thank
do
you
it
for
during the broadcast.
oh, that's Mario. Hi. We have several people watching us.
That's great.
Would you like to add more information? Oh, thank you. It's on Powerful Places. About any of these places, like the Temple of Diana versus the Roman Temple.
Louise says, of course I'm from here.
What a wonderful place to be from.
Well, we'd love to meet you. We have other questions?
If not,
If not, I
guess we're
done.
We're done, and we look forward to sharing more with you at some point in the future about Évora, when we've learned more, perhaps from these people who have been sharing with us.
Right.
And
2
meantime,
weeks from today will be Ann Parker. We'll be here in Évora, and she will be in Boulder, Colorado. But tune in and see Ann and all of her travels.
yes, she has she has some diagrams she's going to share about her geomantic analysis of the energies underneath and various sacred sites, including Stonehenge. And she has a lot to share.
Okay, so see you in 2 weeks.
And thank you for joining.
Yes, bye-bye.
See you next time.